must leave my son's house. My son cannot continue to harbor a barren woman. Why, Mama? Mama, why?
Benita grew up as the last child in a humble family of 4 children. Her parents were quiet, hardworking people who believed in decency and dignity more than wealth. From childhood, she learned to be gentle, respectful, and measured in everything she did. People often described her as soft-spoken, well-mannered, and extremely considerate. She wasn't the type who troubled anyone. Even as a teenager, she was the girl who washed plates without being asked, volunteered to help neighbors, and never raised her voice. She carried a calmness that made people trust her instantly. When she finished secondary school, she took a short teaching job at a small private school while waiting for admission. She didn't earn much, but she didn't care. She was always content with whatever she had. On weekends, she helped her mother sell vegetables. Her life was simple but peaceful. Everything changed the day she met Daniel. Daniel was everything a young woman could desire: tall, naturally handsome, soft-hearted, and extremely respectful. He came from a wealthier background but remained humble. He had gone to pick up his niece from the same school where Benita worked, and that was the first time he noticed her. She was standing near the school gate with a small pile of books in her hands, giving instructions to one of the students. The afternoon sun made her skin glow. Daniel found himself staring longer than was polite. There was something about her, something uniquely serene. When she looked up, he smiled, and she returned the smile gently. That was all it took. Daniel could not get her out of his mind. Over the next few weeks, he returned to the school more often than necessary, always finding excuses to be around. Eventually, he summoned courage to speak to her properly. He introduced himself, and she responded in her usual soft, respectful tone. He liked her instantly, and within months, they became close. It didn't take long before they officially started dating. Daniel was deeply in love. Benita was cautious at first but soon opened her heart. Their relationship grew stronger, filled with understanding, patience, and genuine friendship. After 2 years of courtship, Daniel proposed. Benita accepted with tears of joy. Their families met, and for the most part, everything went smoothly, except one person, Daniel's mother. Mama, as everyone called her, was a strong-willed, controlling woman who never liked anything she couldn't dictate. She loved her son obsessively and wanted full control over his decisions. From the moment she met Benita, she disliked her deeply. The reason was simple: Benita was too calm, too quiet, too unassuming. Mama wanted a woman she could intimidate, someone she could bend to her will, someone from her clan or someone she personally approved. But Daniel had made his choice. Mama hid her resentment beneath a thin veil of forced politeness. But her heart was hard. The moment she walked back into her room after meeting Benita for the first time, she had hissed loudly and muttered, "My son has entered trouble." Daniel ignored the warning signs. He believed Mama would adjust with time. She didn't. Their wedding was beautiful. Benita's family contributed everything they could. Daniel's family covered the rest. People celebrated them with genuine joy. They looked perfect together, like a couple crafted by God himself. As they danced hand in hand during the reception, guests whispered blessings. That night, Benita knelt beside the bed and prayed for a peaceful marriage. The first year was filled with love. They were inseparable. Daniel spoiled her when he could. They laughed, prayed, walked, dreamed, and lived in harmony. Then the second year arrived. By then, Benita expected to be pregnant. She was hopeful every month, but nothing happened. Daniel encouraged her. "It will happen," he said softly whenever she looked discouraged. "Don't stress your mind. God knows our time." But Mama was not patient. From the 6th month of the marriage, she began dropping comments. "No news yet. Are you sure everything is alright? Some women delay pregnancy because of what they did when they were young. Benita smiled politely and said nothing. Daniel warned his mother multiple times, but she refused to stop. Deep down, Mama was angry. Not at the absence of a grandchild but at the fact that Benita was the one married to her son. She wanted to create tension. She wanted to frustrate the marriage until Daniel eventually divorced Benita. But that wasn't enough for her. Mama visited a spiritualist, an old woman known for dark practices. She was feared by the community, yet people secretly sought her for charms, vengeance, and manipulation. Mama went there with one mission: to prevent Benita from ever conceiving. She brought items the spiritualist requested: Benita's hair, collected secretly during one of Benita's visits, a wrapper Benita once forgot at her house, and a small amount of Benita's food Mama pretended to taste but spat into a nylon bag to preserve her saliva. Mama was determined. The spiritualist crafted a charm meant to dry the womb. It was a small bundle tied with red and black thread, smeared with a foul mixture and bound tightly with hair. The instruction was simple: place it in the couple's bedroom, anywhere close to where Benita slept, and as long as it remained there, pregnancy would be impossible. Mama took the charm home, waited for an opportunity, and finally placed it under Benita's side of the bed during a visit. That night, Benita dreamt of holding a baby who suddenly turned into smoke and vanished. A shadowy figure laughed mockingly behind her. She woke up sweating, frightened, and confused. Over the next weeks, her dreams worsened: babies crying, blood dripping on her hands, shadows pressing her stomach, dark hands pulling her away from cradles. She also experienced sudden cramps, strange weakness, and overwhelming tiredness. Daniel kept taking her to the hospital, but every test came out normal. The doctors insisted she was healthy. Mama was satisfied. She returned to her spiritualist and gave offerings in gratitude. She hid her wickedness behind a mask of religious fervor. She started praying loudly every morning, telling neighbors she was asking God to bless her son with a child, yet she was the reason for the delay. 3 years passed. Benita felt the weight of pressure. People whispered behind her back, "She looks healthy, oh, maybe she has a secret problem. 15-year-old girls are getting pregnant, what is wrong with her? Her womb might be closed forever." But she remained calm. She cried privately, prayed quietly, and continued loving her husband wholeheartedly. Daniel stood by her like a rock. He defended her fiercely. He ignored the pressures from relatives and friends. He reassured her constantly. But Mama kept poisoning his mind. "Other men are having children everywhere. How will you feel when it's too late? You better think well." Daniel refused to bend. Mama grew angrier. By the 5th year, Benita's hope had thinned. She still believed, but her faith trembled. She avoided gatherings. She avoided baby showers. She avoided naming ceremonies. It wasn't jealousy, it was pain. Every crying baby reminded her of her empty arms. Year 6 came. Then 7. Then 8. Mama became bold. She openly insulted Benita whenever she visited. She mocked her cooking, criticized her dressing, accused her of laziness, and constantly hinted that Daniel deserved better. Sometimes she sat in the living room and intentionally prayed loud, dramatic prayers. "Oh God, any woman blocking my son's blessing, chase her out of his life." Benita would hear it from the bedroom and cover her mouth to stop herself from sobbing. Daniel confronted Mama multiple times, but nothing changed. Mama always acted innocent in front of others, claiming she only wanted the best for her son. Year 10 approached. Benita began to feel like a shadow of herself. She was emotionally drained. She had prayed in churches, visited medical experts, taken supplements, changed diets, taken herbal mixtures, and participated in countless fasting programs. Nothing changed. People pitied her. Some mocked her. Some questioned her past. Some said she must have offended someone. Unknown to her, the offender was living comfortably as Mama. Mama's wickedness deepened. She visited the spiritualist again for reinforcement. The spiritualist created another charm, this one meant to tie Daniel and Benita's affection so tightly that Daniel would refuse to seek another wife yet still remain childless, ensuring long-term emotional torture for both of them. Mama liked that idea. She took the charm home, buried it near their kitchen window, and smiled with satisfaction. Benita's suffering intensified. She started waking up with unexplained marks on her stomach, small red lines like scratches. Daniel noticed one morning and panicked. They rushed to the hospital, but again, nothing was medically wrong. By the 12th year, Benita was physically fine but emotionally bruised. She felt invisible. She felt like a burden. She felt like a failure. She withdrew from her former bubbly friends and spent more time indoors. Daniel remained supportive, but even he began to feel discouraged sometimes, though he never let it show. Mama became more aggressive. "You have spent 12 years with an empty womb," she shouted one afternoon. 12 years. Which woman wastes a man's life like this? What kind of punishment is this? Benita heard everything. Her soul shattered in pieces. But she held on. Year 13 came. Year 14. Year 15. Benita was now older, quieter, and tired of hoping. She still prayed, but the prayers felt dry. She had accepted silently that maybe motherhood wasn't meant for her. Everything changed on a Sunday afternoon when Daniel's friend invited them to a 3-day prophetic revival. Benita didn't want to go. She was exhausted spiritually. But Daniel persuaded her gently. They went. On the first day, nothing happened. On the second day, nothing happened. Benita felt the same emptiness she had felt for years. She was already counting hours until the program ended. But on the third day, during the evening session, something unusual happened. The man of God was ministering calmly when he suddenly stopped and looked toward the aisle where Benita sat. His eyes narrowed sharply, as if seeing a shadow behind her. He called her forward. Benita walked with trembling legs. Daniel joined her immediately. The man of God looked at her with deep sadness. "For 15 years, he said softly, you have suffered silently." Benita burst into tears instantly. She had never told him anything. No one had explained their situation to him. Yet he spoke with accuracy. The man of God continued. "Your womb is not your problem. Your body is not your problem. Your husband is not your problem. The problem is someone who calls you daughter, but carries a heart darker than charcoal." The crowd erupted in murmurs. The prophet raised his voice slightly. "Your mother-in-law is the one who locked your womb." Benita collapsed to her knees, crying uncontrollably. Daniel froze, unable to move. The entire congregation watched in shock. The prophet continued. "A charm was placed under your bed. Another buried near your kitchen window. Both tied with your hair and personal items. The purpose was barrenness, stagnation, and emotional frustration." Benita sobbed. Daniel shook violently. The truth hit him like thunder. The prophet instructed them to return home after the service and search carefully. They obeyed. Daniel tore the bedroom apart. Under Benita's side of the bed, wrapped in dust, he found a small, foul-smelling charm tied with red thread. Beneath the kitchen window, he found another bundle tied with black thread, buried shallowly. Benita screamed. Daniel dropped to the floor, crying like a broken child. Their world felt like it was spinning. They rushed back to the prophet with the charms. He poured oil on them and commanded fire from heaven. Within seconds, the charms dissolved into liquid darkness and evaporated. "That is the end of your delay," the prophet declared. 2 weeks later, Benita felt unusual discomfort. She ignored it. A month later, she realized she had missed her period. She kept quiet, afraid of disappointment. After 2 more weeks, she told Daniel quietly. They went for a test. Positive. Benita fainted. Daniel cried uncontrollably. Nurses rushed in to revive Benita. When she woke up, the doctor smiled. You are pregnant. The baby is healthy and strong. Benita wept loudly, shaking all over. Daniel held her tightly as tears streamed down his face. They sat in that room for nearly an hour, overwhelmed with gratitude. When Mama heard the news, something strange happened. She began screaming uncontrollably, tearing her clothes, running from one end of her house to the other. Neighbors rushed in. She confessed everything before she even realized what she was saying. I locked her womb. I didn't want her in my son's house. I did it. I tied her womb. I buried charms. I dried her children. People gasped in horror. As she screamed and confessed, she suddenly clutched her chest and fell. Foam gathered around her mouth. Within minutes, she stopped breathing. By the time neighbors carried her to the hospital, she was gone. Some called it spiritual judgment. Others called it shock or guilt. Whatever it was, it ended there. Benita's pregnancy journey was smooth. Her stomach blossomed beautifully. Daniel treated her like a queen. People who once mocked her respected her deeply. Women who once whispered behind her back now carried her bags and praised her strength. After 9 peaceful months, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Destiny. Benita held him close, tears staining his tiny blanket. Daniel knelt beside the bed, thanking God repeatedly. Benita's life transformed. Her story became an inspiration. She became a counselor to other women facing fertility delays. Her testimony changed countless marriages. People learned never to trust outward appearance alone. Wickedness could wear a wrapper, tie a headscarf, and call itself Mama. As the years went by, Benita had 2 more children, both healthy. Daniel adored her forever. Their home flourished in peace. Benita never forgot the 15 years of pain, but she forgave. She refused to let bitterness grow in her heart. She raised her children with love, humility, and kindness. Her story lived long after Mama's memory faded.